This is how the Bat-Embargo changed the Batman forever. The Bat-Embargo was a term used to describe the limitations put on Batman-related characters between 2005 and 2008. These limits banned the use of main Batman villains and Bat-Family members in DC animated shows such as Justice League Unlimited, Teen Titans, and most importantly, the Batman. Now, what was the real reasoning behind the Bat-Embargo? Is there an untold truth that DC is not telling us? On September 11th, 2004, the Batman premiered its first episode, titled The Bat in the Belfry. This episode had the Dark Knight face off against his greatest villain, the Clown Prince of Crime, more commonly referred to as the maniacal Joker. The Joker would appear in 24 episodes across 5 seasons of the Batman. He would also appear in the 2005 animated film Batman vs. Dracula. So the Bat-Embargo didn't really affect him, right? Well, at least not in this show. On November 17th, 2001, DC premiered its highly anticipated Justice League animated series, and by the 8th episode, titled Injustice for All, Mark Hamill returned to reprise his role as the Clown Prince of Crime, after voicing him in Batman the Animated Series, Mask of the Phantasm, The New Batman Adventures, and Static Shock. Mark Hamill's Joker would return again in the Wild Cards 2-parter at the end of Justice League Season 2, which premiered around like the end of 2003, but then Justice League ended, and DC premiered a follow-up show titled Justice League Unlimited. The final show in the DCAU would premiere on July 31st, 2004, roughly 2 months before the premiere of The Batman. Many people were expecting Mark Hamill to reprise his role yet again in the 3 seasons of Justice League Unlimited, but nope, the Joker did not return. Instead, the DCAU capped off Joker's story in Batman Beyond, years before the Batman was airing on TV. Joker would not wreak havoc on the Justice League no longer. Man, he wouldn't even show up for Darkseid's invasion in the Justice League Unlimited series finale titled Destroyer. But why was the DCAU not allowed to use the Joker anymore? Why did only the Batman get the privilege of using Batman's greatest rival? Well, one big note regarding the Bat-Embargo was DC didn't want different versions of Batman-related characters coexisting at the same time. Besides Batman, of course, but every other character had to follow it, and DC decided it was more important that the Batman uses the Joker than the DCAU. The DCAU already used the Joker plenty of times, and the Batman was just beginning. The Batman needed more help gaining an audience than Justice League Unlimited. And what better way to gain an audience than to include the Joker in not only your first episode, but in a multitude of episodes across 5 seasons. Speaking of Batman villains only appearing on the Batman instead of Justice League Unlimited, here's a list of every villain that appeared on the Batman 2004 animated series besides Joker. We have Penguin, Bane, Catwoman, Man-Bat, Mr. Freeze, Firefly, Cluemaster, the Ventriloquist, and Scarface. Clayface. Remember him. He'll be important later. Robert Englund's Riddler, Ron Perlman's Killer Croc, Ragdoll, an interesting version of Spellbinder, Solomon Grundy, Psych, it was just Clayface again, Hugo Strange, Poison Ivy, Maxi Zeus, Killer Moth, Black Mask, and Harley Quinn. Yep, Harley was in the Batman instead of continuing in the DCAU, the animated universe where she was created. Well, at least her episode on the Batman was written by none other than Paul Dini, her creator. And in my opinion, this was actually an awesome new version of Harley's character. Now, with all these villains off Justice League Unlimited, what Batman villains could they use? Well, they could only use obscure villains like the Clock King, KG Beast, Gork, Professor Milo, and Blockbuster. So the Bat-Embargo affected Justice League Unlimited heavily, from the Doomsday Sanction when Hugo Strange appeared for the first time and last time, to the series finale. Justice League Unlimited was absent of many Bat villains. But with all the Batman villains that the Batman 2004 animated series had, there were still a few that were banned. These villains being Ra's al Ghul, Scarecrow, Two-Face, and the Mad Hatter. The Mad Hatter's reason for being banned is still unknown, but for the other three, at the time, Christopher Nolan was beginning his Dark Knight trilogy. And if you've seen those movies, you know Ra's al Ghul and Scarecrow are the villains of Batman Begins, Two-Face and Joker were the villains of the Dark Knight. And DC did not want two versions of the villains coexisting at the same time in live action and animation. I guess technically Joker beat the embargo here, because we had Joker in not only the Dark Knight, Heath Ledger's Joker, but we also had Joker at the same time coexisting on the Batman TV show. But for the other three villains, technically four, the Bat-Embargo could not be beat. The show didn't originally have plans for Ra's al Ghul. Justice League Unlimited did, however. Ra's al Ghul was supposed to appear in the Solomon Grundy-centric episode titled Wake the Dead. There could have also been some setup for the apocalypse of '09, but instead we had Liam Neeson as Henry Ducard, aka Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. And yeah, I never liked that Ra's al Ghul was known as Henry Ducard as like an incognito name. Like, bro, don't disrespect Henry Ducard like that. Like, Ra's al Ghul is awesome, but Henry Ducard is awesome as well. Have them as separate characters. Still though, I enjoyed Liam Neeson's Ra's al Ghul in Batman Begins. I just wish we got a different version of Ra's al Ghul on the Batman, or the return of the DCAU version in Justice League Unlimited. Now for Scarecrow, there was a different story. The Batman had an unused character design. He was supposed to appear in multiple episodes in the first 2 seasons. DC wanted to push Cillian Murphy's Scarecrow instead, which, hey, Cillian Murphy did an amazing job. One of his best performances alongside his recent perfect performance in Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer. After Batman Begins came out, the Batman 2004 crew tried again to gain access to Scarecrow. They wanted to use the fear-inducing villain as the main antagonist for the season 4 episode titled Strange New World. But again, DC denied access to the character, because shortly after Batman Begins, Cillian Murphy would reprise his role as the Scarecrow in The Dark Knight. So instead of Scarecrow, the Batman 2004 crew used Hugo Strange as the main antagonist of the zombie-themed horror episode in season 4. The last villain to be affected by the Bat-Embargo is none other than Bruce Wayne's best friend, Harvey Dent, aka Two-Face. The Batman 2004 crew had plans to use Two-Face in seasons 1, 2, and possibly 3. But since Two-Face was a primary antagonist in The Dark Knight, the Batman 2004 animated series was unable to use his character. So the Batman 2004 crew had to get really creative. Bruce Wayne needed a new best friend turned supervillain. That's where Ethan Bennett comes in. Ethan Bennett was a primary supporting character in the Batman seasons 1 through 3. He operated as a cop chasing down the Batman in season 1, and in the season 1 finale, he was turned into the supervillain Clayface. Who turned him into a supervillain, you ask? Well, the same psycho who turned Harvey Dent into Two-Face in The Dark Knight. Yep, you guessed it, the Joker. I personally really like this iteration of Clayface. Honestly, it might be my favorite version of the character. So hey, one positive impact made by the Bat-Embargo. Now, besides Batman villains being limited by the Bat-Embargo, the Bat-Embargo also limited the use of the Bat-Family. After the awesome team-ups in the new Batman adventures, the Bat-Family were not allowed to be used in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited. There was one exception, however. Actually, technically, there was 2. In the season 1 finale of Justice League, titled The Savage Time, Tim, Barbara, and Dick can be seen in Batman's Resistance. In the season 2 episode of Justice League Unlimited, titled Grudge Match, Nightwing can be seen alongside the Gargoyles as Black Canary enters Bloodhaven. As for the Batman 2004, only Dick Grayson, Robin, and Batgirl were used. Batman operated alone in Season 1. He then worked with Yin in Season 2. What happened to Yin? I don't know, but I'll do some research and that may be a future video, so stay tuned. By Season 3, Batman finally received help through Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Batgirl. Yeah, but Batgirl appeared before Robin. Why though? Well, at the time, the popular Teen Titans animated series was airing. One of my favorite DC shows, by the way. Teen Titans ended in January 2006, and the Batman was then able to use Robin in Season 4. And speaking of Season 4, what an awesome season. It might be my favorite season of the show yet. I haven't watched Season 5 yet, so my season's ranking might change. I just finished watching the Season 4 finale titled The Joining, and you guys got to watch my full reaction to the episode on my website, link down below in the description or the pinned comment. We got Martian Manhunter and the Batman teaming up. It's an overall awesome episode. But moving on, the Bat-Embargo made a lot of fans unhappy. Fans actually made a petition to have Scarecrow and Riddler in the Legion of Doom for the final season of Justice League Unlimited. A lot of people argued that it wasn't fair that Superman villains like Lex Luthor could have 3 different versions coexisting, while Batman characters couldn't have 2 different versions coexisting at the same time. It just didn't make sense at all. These 3 different versions of Lex Luthor being Clancy Brown on Justice League Unlimited, Michael Rosenbaum on Smallville, and Kevin Spacey in Superman Returns. The Bat-Embargo would later be lifted in 2008, years after the end of Justice League Unlimited, so some fans didn't get what they wanted, but hey, at least the Bat-Embargo was eventually lifted. The next DC animated show, Batman, the Brave and the Bold, was able to use a wide variety of heroes and villains. It was then revealed around 2007 or 2008 that Paul Levitz, the president of DC Comics from 2002 to 2009, he was the one who actually implemented the Bat-Embargo. His reasoning basically amounted to kids being the Batman's target audience, and he thought kids would be confused with 2 different versions of the same characters at the same time. The reasoning doesn't explain everything with the Bat-Embargo though. Mad Hatter wasn't being used at all, but he was still banned. There were exceptions with Batman and Joker. Superman characters were able to have different versions coexisting at the same time, but Batman characters could not? It just didn't make sense. So is there another reason for the Bat-Embargo? Was it just audience confusion and Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy that caused the Bat-Embargo to exist? Maybe, but there might be another reason. The superiors at Warner Bros. And DC Comics could have put limits on their writers to pave them in a certain direction to prevent oversaturation. Oversaturation is a big problem nowadays in the comic book genre, so maybe they were trying to avoid that. Whatever the reason may be, I'm just happy the Bat-Embargo is no longer a thing. Hopefully nothing like it is ever implemented ever again. But yeah guys, some of your thoughts on the Bat-Embargo down below. Also, are you guys excited for Batman Day? DC is actually releasing the entire Dark Knight trilogy back in theaters only on Batman Day. Man, you already know I got my tickets. I never saw The Dark Knight or Batman Begins in theaters, so I'm really excited. But yeah guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so you could join the DC Nation, and I'll catch you in the next video.